Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples. My name is Tony Fisher. I serve this congregation gladly as its minister, and it's great to have you with us this morning. Thank you for being here. I'd like to welcome those who are in the sanctuary this morning, John Forsyth and Dan Goodsit in our AV room. We have our stewardship team this morning, Robin Petty, our stewardship chair, and Laura Litton, providing us with inspiring words, and our worship associate this morning, Catherine Costello.
Good morning on this fourth but not last Sunday of January. I'm Catherine Costello, your worship associate. Do you feel, as I do, that January has already been 2 months long and we're not finished with it yet? We're so glad you've joined us this morning. If you're new, maybe you'll let us know in the live chat bar and connect with us on our website. There's a good reason for you to let us know if you're new, because we can send you regular news blasts about all the excellent things that are going on here at UUCGN. I've joked to my family that this church is like one-stop shopping if you're looking for ways to get involved in causes or you're looking for personal growth. We probably have the longest list of events per month than any other church in Florida. One of our favorites is Mindful Monday Forum, which will take place tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Jack Levine, founder of the Four Generations Institute, will present a program titled Our Four Generations, Bridging the Generations for Mutual Benefit. Sounds great. Wonderful Wednesdays this week will be Stories from You, a popular storytelling event featuring members of our congregation. Having been one of the former storytellers, I can attest to the fact that you will hear personal, true stories that will make you laugh or cry or both. It's also at 7 p.m., so that's easy to remember. Forum on Monday at 7, Stories from You, 7 o'clock on Wednesday. Everything else you need to know is on our website. It's an easy one, www.uunaples.org. As you know, we are in the midst of our annual pledge campaign to support the mission of this wonderful institution. And who could be better to talk about it than Robin Petty? With his charm and gentle smile, how could you not make a generous pledge? Robin, take it away.
We're in the last week of our pledge campaign. We turned the corner, we're in the home stretch, but wait a minute, I don't see the finish line. Out of our 250 pledge groups, we have pledges only from about 100 so far. So we're going into the last week and we are way short of where I want us to be at this point in time. So I have to ask you a question, simple question. What does this community mean to you? Why are you a member? You could ask me a simple question too. What on earth were you thinking when you took this on in the middle of a pandemic? But here I am, and the reason is because this community is so important to me. When my late wife Monique and I became members 15 years ago, it was because of all of the things that this community brings us. Friendship, support, a place to debate the current events with a group of like-minded people in this liberal oasis, education programs. There's so much more that's available to us here as members of UUCGN. This is a community in which we care for each other, as well as reaching out to those less fortunate than us in the local community. We care for each other in this beautiful facility. When we're all vaccinated and you finally get back here, you will realize that there's so much going on. In the last few years, of course, we've done a great deal to add, update, and beautify it. With the wonderful generosity of two of our members, we have this lovely pavilion, which is just changed the whole nature of this place as far as I'm concerned. It gives us somewhere to gather, and it is lovely, along with the surrounding gardens and the elegant memorial wall that is there to remind us of the members that we've lost, and we can think of them. But then you might say, okay, so what have you done for me lately? What have we got going here this year, right now? For those of you who haven't seen Bobby's video, I got to tell you, there is a lot. And I would encourage you to see the video. It's on Facebook. But I'll give you a list, for example. We've just spent over $20,000 updating our whole audio-video system here. You've got to see it. I got cameras, lighting, new sound system. Looking over at Dan Goodset in the control panel here. I mean, good grief, it looks like Cape Canaveral over there. Then we've spent about $28,000 updating the video security system here. Our goal is to make this place safe and secure for you when you get back, when you return. All the plumbing's been replaced. We have touchless plumbing. That's cost about $18,000 for the towel dispensers, the faucets, everything in the plumbing area. And we spent $9,000 upgrading the fire alarm system, and another $5,000 on bringing the interior-exterior lighting up to scratch with LEDs. Now that's all been over $80,000, and that comes from our pledges, the support that we bring here. If we look at the way we reach out to the local community, well, the list there is really too long to go over, and I refer you to Bill's video. But with the leadership of people like Ellen Emmerich, Ellen Prokopov, Alice Modic, and others, we have done so much to add to our weekend meals programs, our local food bank support, supporting the Legal Aid Society of Collier County, the annual Giving Tree at Christmas, and the Emerson Academy program. And it goes on and on. The Minister's Discretionary program that Tony can draw on to support the needy. All of this takes money, folks. I know you don't like to hear it, and we don't like to talk about money, because this is, after all, a religious institution, is it not? But it's the resources that fuel it and keep it going. We have expenses coming at us down the road, literally, because we need to repave our roadway and parking lot. That's going to run over $43,000. Now, fortunately, we have a generous donor who is willing to foot most of that bill, but it's still a lot of money. We're going to need new air conditioners. That'll be about $17,000. We're upgrading our website because, as you know so well in this digital age, we have to have a state-of-the-art website, and that's going to be about $18,000. Even the dishwasher is going to need to be replaced. There's another $16,000. So it takes money to run this place, I'm afraid to tell you. But we are resilient, and we are generous, and we will step up. And the question is, what are you prepared to do to make all this happen? Because it will happen through your pledges. Without your pledges, it won't happen. And so I think, bearing in mind, we have the generosity of a matching grant, so that if any of you can actually increase your pledges next year, the grant will match the amount of your increase dollar for dollar up to an aggregate of $50,000. So again, I come back to the opening question I asked you. What does this community mean to you? What are you prepared to do to support it? Will you support it, or are you content to sit back and let others do the heavy lifting for you? This may start to sound a little like a public broadcasting appeal, but bear in mind that your support of UUCGN has the potential to change people's lives. Think about that. And don't take my word for it. Listen for a couple of minutes, if you will, to Laura Litton, who, as a relatively new member here, will explain to you in her experience of what this means to her. Laura?
Thank you, Robin. My name is Laura Litton. My husband Rich and I have been UUs in Connecticut for over 30 years. 7 years ago, after our kids went off to college, we were still working full-time, and we took a week off in the winter alone and stayed in Naples for the first time. On the Sunday of our week, we attended UUCGN, and then for the next 6 winters, we attended 1 or 2 Sunday services when we were here. UUCGN felt like an oasis of progressive values, action, and loving kindness that gave us the confidence that we could find a community in Naples. We retired 2 years ago and spent our first snowbird season here last year, arriving in December 2019. We joined the congregation in January, and in March, COVID shut the building down. Attending services in January as a brand new member brought up for me what I call my old junior high school feelings, particularly around coffee hour. Am I going to look awkward standing here not knowing anyone? Will anyone talk to me? Will anyone sit with me at the cafeteria table, on the pavilion? What I found is that this is an unusually welcoming community. Last January and February, Rich and I attended Sunday services, the Forum, Progressive Voices, and musical events, and I joined a Chalice Circle and the Saturday Meditation Group. I've been amazed at the heartfelt welcome and spirit of inclusion from so many people. Remarkably, it has continued on Zoom. Special thanks to Lois's yoga group and Ann and Bob's meditation group. In this relatively short time of being a member, let us say under unusual circumstances, I have discovered another powerful magnet that has pulled me into this community, despite so much of it being from afar. And that is, there are extremely varied opportunities to put a drop in the bucket of goodness. Members have had a respectful and light touch encouraging me to make choices about if, how, and when to become more involved. We all have important contributions to make, sometimes out in front and sometimes behind the scenes. I thank Tony and Ann too, Anna and the board, who have clearly helped to create the warmth and inclusiveness of what is still a very new community to me. And thank you to so many others whose humor, goodwill, and hard work within and extending outside of UUCGN are making a difference. Lastly, this is the 3rd UU congregation we've been members of, and FYI, this is by far the shortest stewardship campaign I've ever lived through, and that is a gift unto itself. Please be generous to keep us thriving.
Thank you, Robin and Laura. And now let us settle ourselves into our time of worship with this morning's prelude by Elizabeth Alexander and Norman Naylor, "Do Not Leave Your Cares at the Door."
Do not leave your cares at the door. Do not leave them there when you come into this place. Be open to forgiveness and transformation. Come on in, you are welcome here. And do not leave your cares at the door. Oh, bring your pain and sorrow and joy. There's a place for them upon the altar of life. Be open to forgiveness and transformation. Come on in, you are welcome here. And do not leave your cares at the door. This is a place of grace, place of losing and finding our way upon the winding road, meeting and parting, stumbling and starting over. Every story is sacred here, even yours. do not leave your cares at the door. Do not leave them there when you come into this place. Be open to forgiveness and transformation. Come on in, you are welcome. Come in, and do not leave your cares at the door. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Do not leave your cares at the door. Do not leave them there when you come into this place. Be open to forgiveness and transformation. Come on in. You are welcome here. These words, written by Unitarian minister Norman Naylor and put to music by Elizabeth Alexander, are also the inspiration for our opening words this morning, written by the Reverend Angela Herrera. Do not leave your broken heart at the door. Bring it to the altar of life. Don't leave your anger behind. It has high standards and the world needs vision. Bring them with you, and your joy and your passion. Bring your loving, your courage, and your conviction. Bring your need for healing and your powers to heal. There is work to do, and you have all you need to do it right there in your heart. We have all we need to do it right here in this community. Please join me in the chalice lighting words on your screen. May this flame stir our hearts and remind us of our mission to be truly welcoming, to grow in mind and spirit, and to widen the circle of peace, justice, and love. And let's join the Littleton, or the First Unitarian Church of Baltimore choir in singing our opening hymn, Wo-Ya-Ya.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Even
We are going. Heaven knows where we are going. I think so many of us, regardless of our political persuasions, were grateful at the peaceful transition of power this past Wednesday, uplifted by the words spoken, especially after the events of January 6th. But we still hold our fears, frustrations, and angers, as political and otherwise. We're at a moment when we need to decide. Are we on the side of perpetuating division, retreating as quickly as possible back into our comfort zones? Or do we, as a people who espouse our principles, find a way forward to a new frontier? The road will be muddy and rough, but hopefully we'll get there. Our service today is an exploration in music and in words of our journey ahead. Our words are inspired by the work of Jean-Paul Lederach, internationally known peacemaker, professor of international peace building at Notre Dame, and concurrently distinguished scholar at Eastern Mennonite University. Lederach, who believes that there is opportunity within every conflict, is the author of Imagine Something Rooted in the Challenges of the Real World Today. World, yet capable of giving birth to something that does not yet exist. He speaks of 4 characteristics, 4 disciplines and capacities that, when held together, create this possibility of transcending a cycle of conflict. In no particular order. First, the acceptance of the inherent risk of stepping into unknown territory beyond the familiar landscape of the current conflict. Then, the capacity to imagine ourselves in a web of relationships that includes our enemies. Third, the fundamental belief and pursuit of the creative act. And fourth, the ability to sustain a paradoxical curiosity that embraces complexity without reliance on dualistic polarity. As a skilled mediator, Lederach believes in the skills and disciplines of his trade, and yet he also admits that breakthroughs in conflict resolution often come about in moments of inspiration and intuition where humility comes into play. He believes in the creative possibilities that art and music bring to bear in a particular moment. Which brings us to our music today, which is mostly built on the work of composer Elizabeth Alexander. You've heard her work in our prelude already. Elizabeth is a recipient of numerous awards and grants and fellowships and commission. Her work has been hailed as brilliantly innovative, truly inspired, stunning, exquisite, sculpting light into sound. During the pandemic, Elizabeth has been creating wonderful videos of her music to share with the world. She works with musicians and photographers, negotiating free or minimum fee usage for the photographs, but she is passionate about acknowledging their work, which is why the credits in our music today will sometimes take some time to play out. I invite you to take that time in our service to breathe, to let the words and the music you have just heard seep into your soul. So we begin here and now, following 4 years of living with an administration that, if nothing else, elevated our emotions. Here and now, in the midst of a fundamental crisis of ideals that still leaves us.
Splitting hair, splitting up, splitting off.
Less and more, rich and poor, what to address, what to ignore. What are we really fighting for?
Persuade, coerce,
Convene, disperse,
accept or curse,
deny, confess.
condemn or bless.
Who lives, who dies?
My truth, your lies.
shout out, what's that all about?
Who gives out retribution and
What
grace?
to keep, what to spend, what to give, and what to lend.
Some have none, some have a lot. Can we learn to share the things we've got?
I see us fighting over what we believe, how to love and how to pray.
We begin with hope and resolve and dreams, and end up fighting over what we believe.
I see us fighting over what we believe, leaving spirits poor and lonely. I want to use my fighting spirit in a different way, instead of fighting over what we believe. I want to wrestle with the angels till the light of dawn. I struggle with my need for pride. I want to take on my tendency to turn my head and grapple with why it feels so hard to gently lay our differences aside.
Day, night, wrong, right, now, and inside.
We all believe in justice.
Let's talk about what that looks like.
We believe in compassion.
Let's look at what that really means.
We believe in the holy work of listening to every voice.
Every voice. Ring and shout out, what's that all about?
Who gives out retribution and grace? What to keep, what to spend, what to give, and what to lend. Who's my neighbor? Who's my friend?
Let's start our conversation there. Instead of fighting over what we believe, it wears us down and wears us out. We have eyes to see, we have ears to hear, we have hands that want to give and receive. I see us fighting over what we believe, leaving spirits poor and lonely. I want to use my fighting spirit in a different way, instead of fighting over what we believe.
I'm tired of fighting over what we believe.
Don't want no more of fighting over what we believe.
Just say no to fighting over what we believe.
Nothing good can come from fighting over what we believe.
Divide, unite, exclude, invite, day, night, wrong, right, no, and insight.
We all believe in justice.
Let's talk about what that looks like.
Public speakers know that a good visual aid helps an audience to focus attention. So here's my visual aid for this morning. $20 bill. There's Andrew Jackson on the front. There's the White House on the back. No, this $20 bill is not about stewardship today. But I promise that when I'm finished, you'll know why I chose this visual aid. My husband Tom is a wealth of thought-provoking sayings, and one of my favorites is, "Feelings buried alive never die." He first picked it up years ago from a self-help book by that title. It sometimes comes into play when I'm trying to repress an angry feeling about someone in my life, and Tom reminds me of it. But these past weeks, these stunning weeks of insurrection, impeachment, and inauguration, it has been in the forefront of my mind in a different way. I'm in the camp that believes we can't heal our country until we have a reckoning for harm done. In my darkest moments, I descend into a pretty ugly blame and shame mood. I understand there's a cost for that, though, so I temper it. But I keep going back to feelings buried alive never die. Repressed feelings rarely go away. Don't we need to take action for the outrage most of us feel? Given that, though, it's mostly out of my hands. It won't be enough for me to wait and watch the process as it unfolds without finding courses of action for myself that are aimed toward unity. As you probably have noticed, I'm a proud Marylander and spent my whole life there until 5 years ago. I'm particularly proud of a short little woman, much like me in stature, from the eastern shore of Maryland. You know her, Harriet Tubman. She was hoped to be on the $20 bill for the 2020 centennial of women's suffrage. The arguments had long been made that Andrew Jackson, who owned slaves, supported the slave trade, and forced Native Americans from their ancestral lands, didn't belong on our money anymore. So now we take down statues of Confederate generals, and President Biden has already removed the portrait of Andrew Jackson from the Oval Office. But we still carry pictures of a white supremacist in our wallets. If you're among the disappointed that Jackson is still here, you probably know that former Treasury Secretary Mnuchin stalled the final creation of the Tubman bill by 6 years, even after considerable design work had gone forward, and said we might not ever see Tubman on a bill. Rethinking Tubman's contributions has become a personal challenge for me of late. I'm too comfortable relying on my role as an educator as my part in counteracting white supremacy. As I've said, I will teach until I can't anymore, and will always believe in the power of teaching. But outside the classroom, I've not been brave enough to step out into unknown territory beyond my familiar landscape. Harriet Tubman was an illiterate, abused slave who had the bravery to lead a substantial number of other slaves to safety on the Underground Railroad, even after the brutal Fugitive Slave Act was passed. What kind of courage does it take to get away to freedom yourself and then turn around and go back at least 13 times to free others? I know I don't have that much courage. What's not so well known about her life is that she served as a scout throughout the Civil War, convincing the white officers to let her be a kind of guerrilla operative and even lead an assault into battle. She was much more badass than your history teacher let on to you. I want my legacy for my grandchildren to be that I gave my all to leave my country better than when I was born into it. As Amanda Gorman said at the end of her inaugural poem, "The new dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light. If only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. I must summon my courage, as we all must. Lessons have been learned, and I want to see Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill."
Let's join together in singing Spirit of Life, led this week by the Unitarian Congregation of Littleton, Massachusetts, and signed by Lorinda Morimoto. I invite you to take a deep breath and honor this community, even in its separateness, for holding itself together. Those who have called, those who have answered, those who have visited despite the pandemic. We are a community that is bound together with the glue of love and compassion for one another. This past week, we not only celebrated the transition of power, but the unfortunate milestone of 400,000 dead. There are no words. We hold them and their families as much as we can in our hearts and minds. Those in our congregation who have been affected by the virus, whether through the passing of a family member or by catching it themselves or by working on the front lines, we send our love. We hope that with the vaccine and its distribution, that things will, in fact, return to some degree of normalcy in the coming months. But we know, too, that that time will hold its own anxieties. And so we hold one another still. Our service today is about moving forward. And before the meditation, let's offer another quote by Jean-Paul Lederach. Spirit of life and love, God of our deepest understanding, We stand and wonder at the gifts with which we have been graced. This planet, this life, the beauty of this place, the shared joy within this community, even in our separation. And yet we know we live in a troubled world where the difference between have and have not, between security and vulnerability, between complacence and wondering where it all went wrong, is oh so slight. We live in a troubled world where tumult and uncertainty are written not only on the faces of those we see on our television screens, but in those in the circle of our own family and friends. We live in a troubled world where we are all broken to one degree or another, where we all experience loss, where we all experience regret, where we all feel pain. Spirit of life, as we gather in this January of hope, help us blow away the winds of hate. Fill us with the compassion, the strength, the courage to overcome our own fears, to move beyond our disagreements, to expand our web of relationships beyond this small circle of those we know well, to those we do not know well and are yet to understand, to reach out our hands and our hearts in the spirit of gratitude and generosity. Stay with us now as we strive to live our days in the spirit of universal love and acceptance for every person. Let's spend a few seconds together in silence. The Wajir district in Kenya lies in the northeast corner of the country in lands that border Ethiopia and Somalia. Its citizens are mostly members of Somali clans. And like the rest of that region in Africa, they have been deeply affected by the internal strife in both Ethiopia and especially in Somalia. In 1989, when the Somali government collapsed, not only sending a stream of refugees across the border, but also a flow of fighters and munitions, local clan loyalties came into play and the violence spread into the Wajir district. In 1992, Kenya declared that Wajir was in a state of emergency. Decca, one of the key women leaders in Wajir, remembers one morning in 1993 when she heard gunfire approaching, and she went and quickly grabbed her firstborn child, pulled her under the bed so that they could hide there while the bullets crisscrossed the room above them. When it was safe to get up and out, she told her mother about it, about the incident, and her mother told Decca of a time when Decca was a young child and her mother, had to take her under the bed in similar circumstances with the bullets flying. This struck a deep chord in Decca, a hope, an idea that perhaps her daughter would not have to go through this same repeating circle of violence. And so she created a small group of women who began talking, less than 12, and trying to figure out what possibilities could emerge from what the reality was on the ground there. And they decided that the marketplace was an important place to try to create some safety. They took their children there. They sold and bought goods there, going all right. At our best, we engage in what has been called a glad curiosity, overcoming our natural fear for the unknown to venture forth with little to sustain us except our zest for living and our hunger for new experience and knowledge. We even recognize the complexity that rests within ourselves and know the courage it sometimes takes to look into our own depths. It is imperative in these times of strife that we look humbly upon what we've been given, that we have the privilege and the capacity to imagine something better, both within our own community, our local communities, and the wider nation, and to lend our best selves to the work of healing, engaging in healthy discussion, and creating a new normal that serves the common good of all people. I think this past week we were all inspired by the ceremony on Wednesday, but especially writer, one of our friends who you've seen before, Leah Morris, will give our benediction.
Hey, you guys, Leah here. So I must be among millions, if not billions of people who tuned in to the inauguration yesterday on January 20th, 2021. And I was inspired by every moment of it, but especially rapt and lifted, exalted, just completely fixated and moved by Amanda Gorman's poem. There is always a light when we are ready to see it. There is always a light when we are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night, to climb this hill, together we will. There is always a light in the dark. We are ready to see it. There is always a light in the dark. We are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light. to raise around in the dark of night and be a gift. Together we will. There is always your light. There is always we are ready to see it. There is always your light. There is always in the dark. We are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night and be a gift. Together we will. There is always light. There is always light. There is always light. There is always light. To see the light, to be the light, to shine.